Let's see, I'll start and we can have my slides up. I owe a lot to my parents. Obviously, I'm here tonight, that's one of the things they gave me, but my parents have taught me many things as I grew up, and they exposed me to many opportunities, and both of them were teachers. My mom was a math teacher during a time when women weren't very popular in math, and thankfully we're starting to see many more women in the sciences and in math. In fact, my sister is a math teacher in Chicago. And my dad was a science teacher who then went on to work for Hewlett Packard. So I got the science and computer skills from him. And born in 1975, only one non-shuttle mission during my lifetime, and that was the Apollo-Soyuz mission, which happened 2 months after I was born, so I don't even know if I really was cognizant of it. I wasn't even smiling or probably recognizing colors at that point. But the things I do remember are the shuttle. And there was a lot of information happening in the early 80s and that were impressionable to me. First of all, we were getting all this data back from the Voyager missions. My parents were constantly taking me to museums. And so I was super excited about the planets. I just couldn't get enough information. I would go down and we had this National Geographic book. I don't know if any of you had it too, but it had a little tiny, it's not a real telescope, but it was a little telescope that you put slides through and you could look at the planets. And it just, I would go down there in our basement and I'd look through it and it got me really excited about space and it made me start thinking that I wanted to go to Venus. Well, later I learned I couldn't go for many different reasons. So then I enjoyed all those times at the planetarium with them. Additionally, in 1983, Sally Ride was the first female astronaut to ride on the shuttle. And then shortly after the release of The Right Stuff, and my parents took me to see The Right Stuff because they had been watching the Mercury and Gemini and Apollo missions as they were growing up. So they had been inspired by all of these astronauts before. And so they made sure that I got to see The Right Stuff, and I loved it. I love that movie. So those two things. And then the next fall, Captain Sullivan would do the first spacewalk. And so, I don't have my slide up there, but it's no surprise that in 3rd grade, I made a little paper mache doll out of a ketchup bottle that is of a woman in a spacesuit. And that was the first time that we were asked at school, what do you want to be? And I wanted to be an astronaut. Of course, I also wanted to be a teacher because I read all of the Laura Ingalls Wilder books, and I watched her every afternoon at 3 o'clock on television in Little House on the Prairie. So I had some other things I wanted to be, but I, at that point, realized space was possible for me as a little girl. And the 80s would continue to bring us interesting things because of the shuttle. And it would also bring us tragedy, as we talked about earlier, which became a talking point for my mom and I as we sat down and we discussed what's really worth risking your life for. And exploration really is worth risking your life for. And I'm glad we had that conversation early in my life because later I could then come back and explain to her why I did a whole bunch of the other things I do in my life on a daily basis. And some things I just don't tell my mom, it's just better not to tell her. And let her find out later. But my parents believed in me enough, like I said, to realize that even though I got 2nd place in a writing contest and I didn't get the 1st place trip here to space camp, that they invested that money and sent me on my spring break because they didn't want me to miss school. As teachers, you never miss school for any reason. So I went on my spring break in 1990. And it's really easy, especially as we come into this room and we see all of this amazing history around us. It's really been easy today as I take a walk down memory lane to think about 20 years ago. It's kind of hard for me to believe that it was 20 years ago. In April, I came here to space camp. And it would be 20 years later in April that I would fly. It's just coincidence because there was some odd weather in Florida that pushed our launch into April. We were originally supposed to go in March, so just a coincidence, but it's kind of cool how coincidences happen. Well, I would go on, and because of Space Hand and because of my parents, I would teach high school science, and I would go on and actually build a telescope with my husband, and we would take it out to star parties, and we would involve our students, and of course I'd bribe them with pizza early in the morning, and get them to come out and see the moon and the planets. But it was because I wanted to share space with them, because space had influenced me, and how could you not look up? And these same students, I taught at a Title I school, which means I have a lot of students that aren't reading at the grade level that would make them necessarily college-bound right away. And they have a lot of stuff that's happening at home, so sometimes just making it to school is quite an achievement. But these kids deserve investment, and these kids deserve us believing in them. And so one of my students asked me, well, how do you go to the bathroom in space? And I didn't know what the shuttle toilet looked like. I knew that obviously how it would have to work, but I didn't know what the toilet looked like. And so I said, well, that's a great question, and because I value your question, I'm going to go look it up. So that night I went to Google and got a picture of it, and in the meantime, just by chance, they happened to be posting that they were hiring teachers in the class of 2004 astronauts. And my husband, Jason, is a mathematical, statistical type of guy, and he said he never would have done the risks that I took, because he said, statistically, you would never have made it as an astronaut. But I went home and applied for the astronaut program because it was my dream. How could I not try for the dream that I asked my students to try for? So, because my parents, I had the ability to dream big, to come here, and then in April to fly in space. And what an amazing experience it was. As you saw some of the shots from our mission, the team that I got to work with, both up in space and on the ground, was incredible. From the beginning, we lost our KU band antenna, which didn't cause a lot of problems. They did have to fly a rendezvous without it, but we practiced that in the simulator. It did mean that we didn't get emailed, but who really cares? They didn't have to see a lot of video from us, but no one was up early in the morning anyway, so KU band antenna loss was not a big deal. What was a bigger deal was that our spacewalks, we did run into some problems with bolts, but as you saw this last week, as a whole team at NASA, we can make a lot of things happen, and we replanned our third EVA, and it went smooth, and we changed out the ammonia tank. That ammonia tank just happened to be needed for this pump module change out this last few weeks. So it's very cool. It's cool to still see Tracy Caldwell Dyson up there as part of our team. We had a chance, and she just got there 2 days before us, and to see her, and later tonight you're going to see a little video clip of her singing too. But we work with a great team. We work for a great purpose. We have been inspired by those that went before us, and hopefully we leave an inspiration behind. And so I thank those 4 folks tonight that are being inducted into the Hall of Fame. They're doing great science to learn about our bodies and how it can be better protected as we do more long duration flights. They're serving our country in places that are difficult to serve in. They're teaching our students, and they're writing about our experiences so that there will be others to come. So thank you all tonight, and it's just quite an honor to